is going on, everyone? It's your guy, Cole Jackson, back with another episode of the WTFlock Postgame Show. We're going to be bringing you instant analysis and a breakdown of the Ravens' 16-10 division rivalry game against the Cleveland Browns. If you're enjoying these breakdowns and you love the instant analysis, click the like button, hit subscribe so you can find your way back for more. Say a huge thank you to the sponsors of the WTFlock Postgame Show. It's our guys and gals over at Lee's Pint and Shell, located right in the heart of Baltimore. You know they're celebrating that division win. They're loving it. Don't miss out on their game day specials. They got Bud Light drafts, Michelob Ultra buckets, Modelo and Corona pony buckets, and White Claw buckets. There's something for everybody. Check the link below and just know they're your go-to for the Ravens game day. And now over to my post-game co-host. It's Adam Bonacorsi. What the flock is going on, my guy?
Another heart attack. Another Sunday heart attack in the books. So at this point in time, it's just becoming a regular thing. I think my body's just adjusting to it. It doesn't feel as intense, but what a win. What a win.
This is a weird one too, because it's felt like every game has been the offense fighting back into games. And this was the defense just holding on. And then based on our experience all year, you get to that point where, they got to make a couple big stops because the offense couldn't, take care of their business. And credit the defense. They were able to get those stops. They were able to, control the line of scrimmage against a very good offensive line. I wouldn't say a very good offense overall because I don't think Baker Mayfield's it. But I will say because they stopped a very good run game. Let me ask you this question. If I had told you going into this game that Lamar Jackson threw 4 interceptions, what would your score prediction have been?
30-13. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that too quick? So it sounds scripted? Seriously, though. I mean, you're talking 4 interceptions. In my head, where I go is, all right, so there's no way one wasn't either a pick six or puts them in that red zone positions. There's points right there. And then a couple more, it seems like desperation plays. But when you literally look at it and say, well, how many points did they actually score off of this 4 turnovers goal?
Would have been
3 points.
Oh, I thought it was 3. It was 3. Okay, I was going to say
they scored 3 points off of 4 Lamar Jackson interceptions.
And they really only scored 3 points because I don't care what anyone says. That was not a catch on that touchdown. You can see, listen, anyone out there that's played on turf, when you are running and cutting, you can see the rubber pellets fly up. When the ball hits the ground, rubber pellets fly up. When you look at the back angle, rubber pellets fly up. Like, this isn't hard. Like, it's just, anyway, whatever. The Ravens won. We're moving on from that. Now, let me ask you this. Would you have been surprised if I told you that the Cleveland Browns threw the ball 37 times and only ran it 17 times against a Ravens defensive line that hasn't had Wolf all year, didn't have Calais Campbell in this game? Would that have surprised you?
That surprised me, but it's kind of funny because that runs contrary. So if you would have said, take the Lamar turnovers away, if you would have said the Browns threw 36, versus running 17, I'd say, well, then the Ravens won the game, right? Because they're playing catch up at that point. But then you look at the low score and you're like, what the hell were they doing?
This reminded me of I guess not a reverse narrative, but it was the Ravens changed their identity when they play the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think we have I'd have to go back and look, but this hasn't been a Browns thing over the last, because Lamar's what now? He's 6-1 against the Browns. That only lost.
That sounds believable. I'll take that.
It's something like it. Maybe it's anyway. It doesn't matter. He's only lost to them once in 2019 when they got blown out in that week 2-3 game. And so, but the Browns have been a very, like, they have an identity. They're going to come in, they're going to run the ball, they're going to set up play action, and Baker Mayfield's going to do his best off of play action. If you can take away the run game, you can force him to drop back. It's kind of funny. It's ironic about Baker Mayfield. It's all those narratives we heard about Lamar Jackson. Make him throw, get him in 3rd and long, make him play from behind. And everyone focused so much on Lamar Jackson. It turns out Baker Mayfield's been that guy this whole time. So I've always found that ironic, but it's just interesting in this game to see them do it to themselves. But I mean, on the other hand, like, credit the Ravens D-line. I thought Justin Madubuike stepped up. Brandon Williams had his best game of the year when he was definitely due. Even
Jelly get some pressure.
Yeah, even Jelly made a couple plays.
Right?
Patrick Queen was flying around. So this defense came into this game, and it was like the Chargers game. Like, they were just I remember having Jay-Z on to have an interview, and he said, this defense is a proud defense. They're not going to get walked all over. And it kind of felt like that. Like the defense has been up and down all year. And this was just a game where they played on their pride and took down a divisional opponent.
Absolutely. And it was consistent too. They just had a very consistent game. We've seen them stand up or shut teams down, should I say. But then they'll let up the big play, right? Chicago, perfect example. Andy Dalton comes in and throws 2 balls that, turn into big touchdown plays for them and looks on the scoreboard like they gave up a couple of scores, but it was 2 plays, right? Otherwise, very stout day. Today was a full out, from start to zeros at the end of the game, a great game. And you talked about the touchdown already, where that absolutely hit the turf. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. That ball, I will not go crazy until the end when you ask me for my final thoughts, but that ball hit the turf. There's no way around it. Right? if it would have been called incomplete, they would have said rolling on the field stands. That's where I stand with that ball. But we'll do the officiating thing later. So, but yeah, they were overall, like, every aspect of them. They played great. Stevens had some good plays in the secondary when called upon. Tavon Young had a good breakup. Tyus Bowser in coverage to end the game.
They were sticky in coverage. Sticky in coverage. It was good to see.
That was how he passed breakups in the last drive.
Well, I should say they were sticky in coverage outside of one specific concept, and that was a Jarvis Landry crossing route that they could not cover the whole first half.
Yeah. No, I called that earlier.
Outside of that, any other concept, even, some of the plays they did make, the Ravens defenders were right there. And let's jump right into the offense. But before we do that, you got your Christmas tree in the back. I've had my Christmas tree in the back. Ryan Mink loves this for us. Our guy, Ryan Mink. But I find when people are getting ready for the Christmas season, they forget about New Year's. So tell our friends, what can they expect for New Year's Eve this year?
No, you're not wrong. And, kind of to your point, we get in the thick of this season. We have kids, right? So you're so focused on the Christmas aspect of things and family parties and all kinds of stuff, right? Work parties. I usually forget all about New Year's until like December 27th. So this year I'm pretty set because we have a couple of options here with the guys over at Lee's, the guys and gals over at Lee's. So if you're feeling like you like the downtown Baltimore scene a little more exclusive environment, you can head over to Lee's Pint and Shell out in Canton on December 31st, and they're going to go ahead and ring in New Year's with an exclusive party of just 100 people, and they're running at $99 a person. So that's one option, right? Option 2 would be up in the county, in Baltimore County. If you're into the bigger jam, or maybe this is a little closer your way, $60 gets you into Tiki Lee's to celebrate the end of the year, and the ringing in the 2022. With hopefully, Ravens, 2 games left in the season at that point in time. So we're probably all riding high and happy at that point. So both events have pretty similar features, right? So you get your open bars for oysters and booze. You get the hors d'oeuvres. You get a midnight champagne toast. And then like all the little party things, like you're like, let me take a picture with these. And then you take them home and you forget you have them. And then they're still in your car like a month later when you're cleaning it out. And those things, right? So you get a good event out of Lee's, whether or not you choose to go to Pint or if you choose to go to Tiki. But I will say, act fast if you like the exclusivity of Lee's Pint and Shell's event, because they only have 100 tickets available and they're selling quick. So I'm a Tiki guy, right? I'll be over at Tiki's this year. It's just a little closer to home for me, and I like the scene. I was down there last week doing some Thanksgiving handouts for the holiday, and I love me some Lee's, Tiki Lee's. So, but yeah, if you're heading that way, let us know. I'd love to see you out there, and cheers to New Year's with you over at Lee's.
Love it. Yeah, and huge happy holidays to everyone. I obviously celebrate my Thanksgiving in October, and I'm always depressed when you guys are doing it in November. But we hope everyone had a safe holiday with friends and loved ones, and obviously big season coming up. Be safe out there. Just have fun. But let's get into this offense, something that wasn't that fun. And, I don't even really know what to say about Lamar after this game. Like, let's start with him. He didn't look like himself. There's been a few of these, and we've talked about it before on some of his interceptions. He'll get caught where he's basically missing a guy. When I say he's missing a guy, it's like a safety will drop down or a linebacker will drop up, and Lamar just doesn't see him. And that was kind of the cause of 2 interceptions. And so the only thing about Lamar is, like, I do expect it on some, like, at points, and I understand, when I see it, I'm like, that's what happened. And then you just kind of move on because Lamar's pretty good at just kind of like rebounding off it. It's not like, even though I'm saying it, well, even though I'm saying it does happen, enough to notice it, I don't think it's like a consistent every game type problem. But it just kind of felt like he couldn't get out of his funk. And that was kind of the difference between this game with, multiple interceptions versus some other games. And I just find he's been more resilient in other games in terms of bouncing back. And, some of that could be, one of the things you have to factor in is when a QB is struggling, one of the best ways to kind of, settle them in, get them calmed down is to lean on your run game and move the ball. And early until the fourth quarter, the Ravens could not move the ball. Nope. That drive to end basically the drive that went from the 8-minute mark until they kicked the field goal at 1:30 or whatever.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark, yeah.
Yeah, that had to have counted. Like they finished with 148 rushing yards, but that had to have been half their, like they rushed the ball basically the whole field. It was crazy. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm concerned. Lamar's coming off a week off. He looked like quote unquote rusty. But it's just, it's crazy to me that this offense was able to do just enough to win. This team is finding ways to win games. So what did you think of Lamar?
So I'll tell you that final drive you're speaking of ran a little, 5 1/4. They had only 45 yards in that drive. And it's funny because you don't think about it, but they had I just went back and checked myself because it was kind of like rub the eyes, what's going on? Exactly. They had an offensive penalty, a holding penalty for Powers for 10 yards that drove them back. So that's probably negating 10 of those yards, 55 yards they ended up driving. But anyway, so here's the thing with Lamar, and I kind of made mention of this on one of my 20,000 tweets during this game. To me, I see hero ball, right? So, and he lives and dies by the hero ball sometimes. And you're right. Sometimes it is just missing a guy in the middle of the field there. And I would love to see a spray chart of his interceptions in his career, where they land. And I bet you a lot of them are probably in a very similar area and in a very similar scenario. But a lot of it's that hero ball stuff, right? And, what I see a lot of times with his interceptions is, if it's a deep shot, you'll hear immediately after that he had 2 guys open underneath that he could have hit, and he was looking for the big play. And the one Andrews ball, and again, dumb luck, right? Andrews literally, if he doesn't touch that ball, it doesn't bump up to the safety, and he doesn't pick it off, right? Yeah. So it was dumb luck, but he was going for
his first one was a tip up too, right?
The first one was a tip up too by Bateman, but Bateman was in the same line as Andrews. He was going for Andrews there. So it was just, again, dumb luck. And I'll stand my ground that second interception, or was it the third? One of them was not. It hit the turf. Again, another hits the turf. You can see the ball notably bounce, and the officials didn't even go to the camera. They quickly said, nope, we're good. Keep going. And it was under 2 minutes. I think it was under 2. Anyway, doesn't matter. So the hero ball thing, right? So some of the best games I've seen from Lamar are the take what's given to you games. And that's when he seems settled into me, right? Take what's underneath, if it's a dump off, take the short routes, take the guys that are open. Don't look for that big play. Don't get caught with your eyes downfield and taking a bad sack in the backfield because you're holding it too long. And there was one of those today that I saw too, where he sat too long in the pocket in a coverage sack, and it happens. But ultimately, he just seemed like his head wasn't there, right? Like he just could not shake, like you said, like he could not shake it. And the fact that all 4 picks were in the direction or to Mark Andrews probably makes it even worse. So, but on the flip side, 3 balls that were picked off aiming at Andrews early, and then he goes down and marches down for the touchdown drive to start the third quarter and hits Andrews for the big play. That Andrews, unbelievable catch. Right, being pulled down, pass interference, and he still pulls that thing with an arm. And then the touchdown pass while Lamar's fading backwards. So as much as
that's what you just said is what interests me so much, because I do get the hero ball sense, and then you get the flip side of the hero ball where he makes these insane plays, and it's like it's almost like you have to live it. It's just like I always say with Wink, like he kind of lives and dies with the blitz. Lamar's going to live and die with the big play, and that's the thing about Lamar, especially in the context of this offense this year. He has to be that big play guy. He has so much pressure on him because the Ravens just don't have the line around him. And it creates, like, I think they finally have the pass catchers, But now they don't have their damn running backs, and they don't have their offensive line. And it's kind of like the complete opposite of 2019, where 2019 they had the line, they had the backs, and you lose, or you didn't have the receivers, and then it's like the flip. And so Lamar is asked to do a lot because he has to improvise back there. I mean, Villanueva couldn't block anything tonight. Surprise, Lamar only took 2 sacks. He only got hit 5 times total. That's actually kind of shocking, but oh wait, no, that's a lie. He got hit 5 times total. There you go. It was the truth. So I mean, that just kind of speaks to his ability to improvise. I thought he threw on the run a little bit more tonight. I think he was kind of anticipating pressure. And I think this offensive line has given him such a bad trust level that you're going to see those early scrambles, and that's part of settling them in early. And that's why I always talk about best way to come out the gates, get the RPOs going. RPOs natural. You can't hold the ball on an RPO because you have your offensive line blocking up field. The ball has to come out. It's either handed off or it's thrown. It's incompletion or it's completion. I mean, it's one of the easiest ways to get the ball out, get a guy going, get him in rhythm. The Ravens have been pretty good. I think they're 6th in efficiency on RPOs this year of teams that use them in the NFL. So, I mean, I'd like to see them kind of do that a little bit more. But, the offensive line was just bad. Villanueva is bad. I think Powers, whatever the hell his name is, I don't care anymore. He's just been bad. They don't really have another option. They're obviously worried about McCary's health. They can't. I think they're hesitant right now to put Phillips in at left guard because they're worried about McCarry having to come out during the game. So they're kind of looking at him on game day as he's my offensive tackle depth. And then Ben Cleveland, I mean, he's big, he eats squirrels. It's fun. It's a cool story. Everyone loves it. But I mean, the reality is he just hasn't been that good when he's played as a Raven. And he hasn't gotten to play enough because he's been hurt. And that obviously factors into it. And I'm not going to say he's a bust, move on from him. But I'm just being like, it's not the whole, we need to put Cleveland in because, he's going to be a game changer. When he's been on the field in a Ravens uniform, he just hasn't looked like that. So, I mean, they really don't have a good plan B, but at this point, you got to consider something different. Ben Powers isn't it. So.
Yeah. And I'll be curious, obviously we're kind of looking down the line a little bit here, but with it's not a rumor, it's not a story, with the fact that Juwan James is starting to at least work out a little bit, that's intriguing to me. And
Ryan McKinney 2.0, baby.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not looking at him right now. I'm looking at January, right?
Yeah.
He shows up in January and he's able to play. And you're in a position at that point where the Ravens are in good shape and the playoffs are there. All right, now you have something to talk about there and some moves. Villanueva is interesting to me, right? Because I feel like when he went back to left, I was like, you know what? He's not playing that bad. And it's like he's just slowly falling off that cliff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's bad. I mean, what was it, the first drive of the game where what was it? It was Garrett he was chipped. I think they have Ricard in there too. And Villanueva still got blown out. It just absolutely demolished.
I don't want to make injury excuses, but he has missed at least a practice the last 3 weeks. So I do wonder if he's dealing with something nagging. I mean, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you got to bring the goods on game day, and he hasn't the last few weeks. But it's curious to me to see him keep popping up on the injury report. And the reality is, if he goes down, you're putting McCarry at left tackle, Phillips at right tackle. Like you're in WTF mode.
Well, he's still hurt with the back injury, right?
I don't even know. Like the whole team is banged up. I'm hurt. Just like my back literally is bugging me. One guy I did want to ask you about because you had a tweet about him, and we kind of talked about Andrews already, but what did you think of Marquise Brown in this game?
So, and that tweet you're talking about, his second effort is utterly insane when you compare it to where he was in 2020 or 2019. Just he had 8 catches for 51, the biggest one obviously in that final drive. He catches the ball, the first, second, and 10, whatever to go in 10. Catches the ball, turns around, heads upfield, but makes the second effort and lunges to get past the first down marker. And that to me, and we've seen it all season, right? Where he's near the sideline, cuts back in and tries to pick up extra yardage. That extra effort, that extra gear, that extra whatever you want to call it, is something that I did not see for the first few years of his career. And I criticized him for it pretty heavily, and rightfully so, as far as I'm concerned. Right from my seat, it was justifiable. And I don't know if it's the coaching changes. I don't know if it's just a personal thing or an internal thing where he basically said, "Screw this, I'm gonna take this thing to the next level." But man, that extra effort is absolutely showing with Marquise Brown, and that is a perfect example in that final drive of where it pays dividends to get the Ravens another first down, to keep that clock rolling, to get yourselves closer to field goal position. It paid off, and it was just a great example of what he's really done in this year to change the perception of who he is and what it is to be a round one wide receiver drafted by the Ravens, because that perception's always been there, right? And I think that's he is now the reason that perception will change, and it will no longer be the Ravens can't draft wide receivers. The Ravens can pick up busts in round one. I think this is it for us, finally.
Right, and I think Bateman changes that as well too, because
I agree.
He caught 4 of 4 tonight too, and he's just looked solid. So I mean, now you kind of have your 1-2 punch, your 1A, 1B, 1B, 1C, whatever the hell you want to call them right now. If you don't think one's 1A, I don't really care. But your top 2 receivers are playing like a top 2 wide receiver duo should, and then when you factor him with Andrews, like that's a trio we're no longer in the bottom 5 of the league in terms of pass catching group, and that's kind of. I think a lot of credit goes to Brown. Brown's finally gotten healthy. I think a lot of this extra stuff, it's stuff that he did at Oklahoma. I think that whole I'm just going to run fast by people was one of the most overblown narratives about Hollywood Brown as a player at Oklahoma. I think he really did a lot of other things really well that didn't get acknowledged. And then I think what happened was when he came in as a rookie and was dealing with the screw in his foot, he wasn't he was doing the things, he was sliding down, and he wasn't comfortable because he had a screw in his foot. I don't think people
the
really
mental aspect of that too, where you have to come back from that.
And now he's comfortable. He's confident. I mean, he even got dirty a couple times in the run game today. Like he's more willing to get in there and rough it up. And I mean, it's paying dividends for sure. And let's move right into the defense, because another group of players that wasn't afraid to get dirty was that defense. And I can't say enough about the play of Justin Madubuike today. I've been pretty hard on him. I think he had a lot of expectations coming in. And he played that Calais Campbell role where he was actually getting moved out to the 5 tech a few times, it looked like, where he's kind of the base D end on the weak side. And we've seen Campbell do that a lot, even though he's classified as a D tackle. And Madubuike was just, when he was in college, he was just, penetrating one gap or go get it, athletic as heck, could run past guards. And today he showed that. And so did Brandon Williams. And I think Brandon Williams only had one tackle on the sheet. That's not going to show you what his game was. He was disruptive. He was blowing up the center of their zone, blocking. He was creating lanes for other cats to run in. Go watch both of Queen's tackle for losses. He runs right through that A gap, which has Brandon Williams occupying two players. It was phenomenal. So, ton of credit to that D-line. I think it's insane that the Browns didn't go to the run game more. But credit the Ravens for giving them a reason not to.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. And when you go back and look, Kareem Hunt only had 7 carries and Nick Chubb 8, Baker Mayfield 2. And in that final drive, they had neither Hunt nor Chubb in for a couple of those plays, if I remember correctly. So it was Dearness Johnson in there, right? So
they had Johnson on one of the ones when he was in the backfield, and they had Felton split out wide when they targeted him. The Ravens actually had 7 PBUs too. 2 from Clark, 2 from Humphrey, and then 1 from Stevens, Bowser. Madubuike had a tip at the line. So that adds up to 7. So I mean, this was a defense that was just in hunt mode all night, and
it was a collective effort too. That was
Chuck
the thing.
Clark, get some hands, buddy. I was so mad.
That was hands, chest, hands, ground. Oh God, it killed me.
Yeah, you want to know how I knew it hit the ground? Because the goddamn pebbles blew up.
Oh God, it was brutal. It was brutal. But okay, so real quick, just kind of on our defense. That was like the difference of both sides. Lamar made some bad throws. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat that. But when Baker made the bad throws, the Ravens did not make him pay the way the Cleveland's defense did to the Ravens. And I say make them pay as in collect the turnover, not score, obviously. But the Ravens defense, Chuck Clark gets hit literally in the numbers and drops this thing. There was a couple pass breakups that ended up tipped up in the air, and nobody could come down and collect those balls. So, but that was the difference, right? That was the difference there, at least in the turnover battle aspect of it. But yeah, the Ravens unit, I mean, in the run game, 18 runs or 16 runs or whatever it was a collective effort, to get these guys down. And what was the longest run on the day? They had 6 yards, 7 yards. It wasn't much.
Yeah, so they had 17 carries for 40 yards, 2.4 average, and the longest was Kareem Hunt on that 9 yard.
9 yards.
And the longest for Chubb was 5.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a collective effort in the ground game and the approach they took there. Queen really did impress me, too.
People are going to be wondering what to do with their opinions, and I can't wait to watch maybe he's, and then, it's going to be interesting because he's
impressed me to the point where when he went down, I was like, oh no. And then I realized what I said, I'm like,
oh yeah.
Oh no.
And he's like, it's just, I don't know he just plays faster. It sounds so simplistic, but like you can go back and watch it. And I mean, Mike and Denard and Coach Evans on the Fire Zone show on this channel showed some of these plays where you were seeing him hesitate, and now he's not hesitating and he's just going, and you're seeing him fly into the backfield.
Absolutely.
And I think he's playing a lot better in coverage too. I mean, it hasn't gotten a ton of attention. He hasn't really gotten the PBUs and the interceptions and all the fancy flashy stats that people want to see, but he seems to be navigating his space a lot better. He's playing really good beside Bynes. So I think that's been really important too, to kind of get him some confidence. And then what shocked me was getting Kristen Welch in there. Spencer Schultz made the point that, he's been playing like a demon on special teams. And I honest to God think they just want to reward him with some defensive snaps for how well he's played on teams. And I thought he played really well. I mean, he was right in there on that. Baker had it wasn't Baker. It was one of their 3rd and shorts, and he was right in the gap, and he almost took Hunt down to force 4th down. So I thought that was interesting, but it just they just all came out. They looked focused. A couple plays given up on some of those play action crossers. Those are going to happen. But other than that, everyone seemed to communicate well. It was just all of those issues, the communication, the tackles. Can you think of any missed tackles? I know Hunt drew a missed tackle on the far sideline when he caught a swing pass. I think maybe it was Tybo fell off of him, but I can't remember a whole lot of missed tackles. Like they just seemed to clean it up, and and it's like one of those things where you and I have talked about it over the weeks. It's like we kept being like, well, if they clean this up, if they tackle better, if they communicate better, they can be a good defense. And at some point, it's hard to just keep saying if. But these are the results, right? Those little things got cleaned up. And I know that you can say the Browns have some issues, Baker's hurt, whatever.
Is he because they said before the game that Baker quoted, "This is the best I've felt since the season started."
And they were the healthiest team because they got Hunt and Conklin. They did lose Conklin in the game, which is a huge loss.
That was quick too.
Anyway, I don't want to listen to injury. Like they just did they look scary to you? I don't know. It looked scary to me.
They look closer to the Browns we've all known for so long than the Browns that we saw last year. And whether or not that's obviously Mayfield's a big part of that, because just kind of an aside, I know we're talking defense here. We'll talk about like a quick Browns offense note, but Baker does not have the swagger he used to have. He does not look like the same guy that came into this league several years ago and basically said, "Screw you guys, I'm going to go throw this thing down your throat." And he's not getting pumped up on any of these plays. He just looks like he's going through the motions at this point in time. And regardless of the fact that they're an AFC North opponent, right? Rival, whatever you want to call them. It sucks to see a man he kind of looks like he's beaten down. Like he does not look like the Baker we knew.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's injuries. And I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's injuries. I
think you summarized that really well, because I actually liked him coming out. I liked the swagger. I liked when he planted the flagpole. I like that kind of stuff. I like the theatrics, and I thought he walked around with swagger, and you're right. You just don't see that anymore. And the Browns do not have an easy schedule. I mean, neither do the Ravens, but they come off the bye and play the Ravens again. Yeah, they come off the bye and play the Ravens again, which is just a bogus schedule. They now have till the 12th of December. It's November 29th to get ready for the Ravens again, who they just played, whereas we have to go on the road to play Pittsburgh. Either way, whatever.
I'll be there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's right.
5 rows off the end zone, baby.
Let's go. But, they come back and they have the Ravens, Raiders, Packers, Steelers, Bengals. So, I mean, it's very similar to instead of the Raiders, we have the Rams instead of the Raiders. Very similar schedule. So,
I'll tell you what, though. And I'll kind of ask you this as we're kind of, in the back end of this thing here. Everybody said, the Ravens have the upper hand in this game, home field advantage. The Browns definitely have the upper hand coming out of the bye. The Ravens having just played the Steelers. But seeing the Steelers the last 2 weeks give up damn near 100 points.
Yeah.
And, they're 5-5-1 right now. And knowing the Ravens won this game with Lamar throwing 4 interceptions, which is an anomaly. Any way you slice it, that is an anomaly for Lamar. Do the Browns really have much of an upper hand in 2 weeks other than health? And everybody's already back?
No, it's a good question. I think you
give them home field advantage. Absolutely, you give them that aspect of it.
There's coming up. I think it's against any team. Coming off the bye at home is always going to be an advantage to a team.
2 weeks to prepare and be able to literally focus on the team you just played. I get that.
I think there's a good point to be made, and I've seen it. People floated out there. Like there is a there is a point where you can over prepare. And I think that's probably a very valuable point because how much how much more film can they watch on the Ravens? Like they're divisional opponents. They play each other twice a year. Stefanski's played against Harbaugh. Like it's not like anything the Ravens and Browns are doing on either side is going to shock the other side.
No.
So like, what are they really going to learn over 2 weeks of film study? What are they really going to change to their game plan in 2 weeks that they didn't do this week? Are they going to run the ball more? Like, is that really is that the big, we need 12, 13 days to think of that? So, right. I kind of get that aspect, but at home off the bye, divisional game, it's always an advantage, but I just think it's bogus scheduling. Like it's just it's Ravens by Ravens. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's not. Show me where that's happened before.
At least flip the away games. Like at least make it you're coming off the bye in Baltimore and tonight was in Cleveland. Like that's what at least do that.
No, I agree with you. But honestly, from the other side of the ball, though, is Lamar. The Ravens are going to spend the regular amount of time to study that game and look ahead to Cleveland and say, all right, here's the mistakes we made on offense. If they clean up their offense, the gap widens in this game. And I don't think there's enough that the Browns can do with an added bye week that can adjust to what the Ravens were able to do defense. I don't know. It's just kind of how I'm looking at it. But I will say this. If Lamar Jackson starts off that next game against the Browns with multiple interceptions, I think they should probably sit him down for a series.
Because that's happened so often to any quarterback in the NFL.
I've been sitting on that for a half hour
now. No, we'll address it because, listen, I get the sentiment. It's kind of like you see it in any sport. Even some of the stars in other sports, sit them down for a minute. When's the last time you saw a quarterback in the NFL that is an actual starting caliber quarterback get benched for a series? Like, find me an example. And I'm talking they need to be a solidified starter, not or a solidified starter that's not hurt, because you made the parallel. It'd be like Baker doing that, and they think his shoulders hurt, so they sit him for a series and throw in Keenum or whatever.
But that makes sense. He's the highest paid backup in the NFL. You're talking about an undrafted free agent in year 2 with a single start to his name, who didn't even have a great game last week.
For those that don't know, this was an exchange on Twitter that Adam had where someone, I forget his name, I don't even really know him that way, writes for ESPN. He's from the Baltimore area. He tweeted that the Ravens should, after the third interception, he said the Ravens need to sit Lamar down for a series and you know, just sit him. He needs to be benched.
Yep, there you go. The Ravens should sit Lamar Jackson down.
I don't know.
Not even for a series. Just
you know what? Let's do it this way. Drop a comment down below and let us know what you think of that. So now, before we wrap this up, because we have a 35-minute thing that we're sticking to and we've been really good at this year, give me your Lee's Pint and Shell player of the game.
Oh, I'm gonna have to give it to Tyus Bowser. I'm gonna give it to Tybo in this game. He showed the discussion about linebackers in Baltimore, and I think this is kind of why it's a little bit more on my mind. Watching what Matt Judon's doing, and people really lamenting the fact that they didn't bring Judon back, and the discussion point is you're asked to do a lot of things here as a linebacker in Baltimore. And Bowser showed that versatility today in this game, again, culminating in that coverage on Njoku to end the game on that 4th down play. So, to me, I really can't pick anybody one specific that I could think of, but Bowser really stood out to me in this game today. So, I would give him my Pint player of the day.
I love it because he had a sack. He had 3 QB hits. He also had that PD. You got to love it. I'm going to give mine to Patrick Queen, and I just think he deserves it. I think he's starting to click. I think I've never seen a player that just gets so much thrown at him by the fan base, and I just love seeing him answer. He talked a little bit. He's exchanged some tweets. He's called people out, whatever. But he's backed up on the field, and I respect that. So I'm going with Patrick Queen.
I do too, and I'll take this moment, Cole, to obviously Patrick Queen listening to this podcast, because we all know he listens to the podcast. I'll take this moment to ask him, hopefully maybe I'll get unblocked one day, because I'm sure I said something at some point in time over the last several years that he did not like, and I just happened to find out this past week that I'm blocked. So, PQ, if you're listening here, my apologies to whatever I said.
Let's also ask Patrick Queen, hey, come on the show. Right. Since you're listening.
I'll give you an in-person apology for that one.
Love it. Well, folks, that's all we have for you today. Like I said, drop a comment down below. Let us know what you think. Hit the like button, hit subscribe so you can find your way back for more. Until the next time, be good to yourselves, be good to each other.